Balbo, founder of the Morgan, and this is a show that was my first one-man show here at the Morgan, which I started thinking about back in July of '06, and titled this In Search of the Second Moon, kind of a reflection on what was going on in my head. And a lot of this work, the majority of all this work was done during February, March of 2020 to literally September of 21. So a variety of pieces most of the work are pulp paintings and marbled pieces on handmade papers and other types of paper, as well as some embedded images that are in the hallway here, which were done a little before the pandemic, about a year and a half before. So what I like most about the show is that it flowed, and it started literally in this kind of frame of mind, and I just happened to be doing some pulp paintings, and I started what I call both a storm series, landscape series, with this kind of work here, which is indications of different types of moods that I imagined of landscape, and very simple things, very traditional kinds of shapes of landscape, and moons and other things that were in there long before I titled this show, In Search of the Second Moon. So this is kind of the beginning of that, and then it's all mixed up in terms of what's here in the show. It's not put together in a linear fashion. It's put together more as what seems to fit best in proportion to what's here. Some of the last works were the large pieces that have a literal sort of moon shape in them. These pieces here, these two much more colorful, as well as this piece here, are done, when I was thinking about this title of the show. And these are done in a technique where they're sprayed on top of a base sheet that's colored beforehand, and then some stenciling done, things like that. So, some of the last pulp paintings, small pulp paintings, were this body of work, which each body of work here represents about a set of normally about 20 to 30 pieces that I'll do in a series of colors and things like that. And some successful, some not so successful. So this body of work here are some of the last in the smaller 18 by 24, 24 by 18 size. In this show, I included some of the ceramics that kind of fit with the sense. They're more sculptural and obviously have kind of a out of this world kind of quality in terms of, what are they? They're not useful for anything but as an object. And then we also have some of the marbled works that were produced within the variety of different times in the course of the last roughly a year and a half or so. So some allude to landscape, some allude to actual forms, and some toward the end here are pressure prints that are then marbled over. So you have an image or two of a pressure print with a marbling. This is one where the print is then marbled over. Same with this. This has a slight image of a pressure print of a turtle. You can see kind of the ink shapes, and then you have marbling done on top of that form. This is one of the pieces that were done at the same time with the moons, and to me, it just fit so well doing this piece and not including any kind of stenciled image on top of the pulp painting. And here we have some different time frames and different pieces and different kind of attitudes towards marbling. And This is a series that was done actually on Andrew's paper that he recycled and repurposed from Case Western. This was very popular, and this is done with a potash to get the kind of tiger eye within that realm of marbling. So you can see some of the organic, natural things that happen when you add that to colors. And here again are some more variations on landscapes, imaginary landscapes, done on, those are all done on handmade paper. And here we have, attitude toward almost like the typical Ebru of Turkish, but marbling, but taken a little bit, obviously, in a much different realm. And actually one of these are all done on handmade paper. This one is done on Tyvek. And then coming in here, we have some other pulp paintings. This is the last of the series of the sort of moonscapes that I did in a large scale. And then some of these are just kind of in an ethereal kind of format, just very simple, weird kind of ground and structure image on there, done with a real fine, really dark, thin black, intense black. And some of the last pieces of the Moon series were also 2 screens that are in the show. And I collect these blank screens when I see them, and we'll both pulp paint inside them and spray them with pulp and clean them up. And this is also an image, kind of, if you look down at the base, it has a kind of Asian or Chinese quality of mountain landscape, that type of thing, and kind of in a vertical fashion that tend to be the nature of the landscape so much in Chinese, Korean, Japanese painting. Again, some more images, larger images with this kind of odd moon shape floating in and out with this stone or whatever you want to call it, this kind of ground that takes it on. And then here we have a different attitude toward a grid system and using similar shapes and playing with the colorations and both on the ground and translucencies, transparencies of colors in the matter of pulp painting. And then we have one of the first pieces that I did before they were really identified as kind of a moon. And this is kind of just using some of these mold shapes that I use and form kind of more of an architectural kind of odd scenario with this little red, whatever dot, whatever you want to call it, world. Not what we normally would see. I could say you're talking about a red sun, but that wasn't my intention at the time. And here's another series that I call Moby Dick series, which was one of the times when I was doing a very highly structured kind of format with very thin layers of pulp overlaid, and then allowing the organic colors thrown in onto those and making shapes with that, just as you might throw a cup of pulp, all mixed up pulp, and playing with an attitude toward that, and they became much more like fish or whale scapes or whatever, but that's sort of where the Moby Dick series came from. And that's pretty much what's here at the show. So thank you.
evening by the moonlight, when the darkest work was over, we would gather round the fire till the whole cake it was done. Then we all would eat our supper. After that we'd clear the kitchen. That's the only time we had to spare to have a little fun. Uncle Gabe would take the fiddle down that hung upon the wall, while the silvery moon was shining clear and bright. How the old folks would enjoy it. They would sit all night and listen as we sang in the evening by the moonlight. In the evening by the moonlight, you would hear those darkies singing. In the evening by the moonlight, you would hear